Hi, and welcome to a special mailbag episode on the It's a Mimic channel. I'm Adam, and with me today is Pepperina. Hello, Peps.
Hello.
And it's just the two of us for a mailbag episode because nobody else is qualified enough to have this conversation.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, they've clicked on the link. They know that we're talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I
Yeah.
am low key so excited to fucking talk about this because this show has not been relevant to my social circles in like 15 years. And
Yeah.
it was a definitive game changer for me when it came out. Um, Before we jump into it, because we've got 22 questions today, 20
Mhm.
from digglybluemoonya, who just emailed me a fucking onslaught of them. And then Alexander AnotherSkip Davis hit us up with two, like months later. And it's just been impossible to schedule this one and get it ready to go. So anyway, I just wanted to talk really quickly before we jump into the questions. Did you grow up on it? Like what's your exposure? What's your relationship with this show and Angel, I guess, the spinoff as well?
I started it towards the end. I remember going over to my boyfriend, then husband, then ex's house, when I was a teenager, and I worked for his mom cleaning houses. So my mom would drop me off and I would have to wait till we started cleaning, and I
Mm-hmm.
would go in the basement and turn on the TV and Buffy was on. And that's how, but it was like last season. And I always had to miss the last 5 minutes of every episode because we had to
Oh,
leave.
that's rough. The last season is all like cliffhangers all the way through it, right? That's
Yeah.
hard.
So, then back then you didn't have streaming services and that. So I bought the box sets. I have all of the box sets actually right, like I have a background on so you can't see them, but literally next to me, I have all of the box sets of Angel and Buffy. It's just sitting next to me. So I finally got to see all the things that I missed and I went back to the beginning. So I actually saw the end before I saw the beginning of it.
That's so funny. But I came into it much like you did. I
Mhm.
had when I was, because this show came out in what, like 97. So I was like 14. I was a 14-year-old dude. I'm not watching a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like
Mhm.
I was just too much of a teenage boy to do that. And I don't know if like people that were teenagers in the 90s will ring true. There was still just enough of that like masculine posturing. It's not like now where anybody can watch any show and tune in for 10 episodes of and like you binge through it. Like it was dedicated watching, right?
Yeah.
um However, I was like, I had a regular thing that I was doing on Friday nights, and there was one Friday night that I had off, and I guess they were doing a massive like watch through of Buffy, because it was leading up to the very last episode of season 5. And I don't know if you know this, but season 5 swapped networks, right? And there's a
Yeah.
shift to from like brighter content to suddenly season 6 and 7 get very dark. And so and as a matter of fact, okay, so spoilers for Buffy. But um
It's just this whole episode of spoilers for
oh,
Buffy.
absolutely. I am not holding back on this, but so I was sitting there and I was flipping channels and I wasn't paying attention to what I was watching or like the title of the show, but I ended up getting very, very engrossed in this like these teenagers are fighting some fucking god thing going on. And it was the end of season 5. And then I realized it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they were doing everything up until like the second last episode. And so then I'm like, okay, well this is actually pretty wild. This isn't bad. And they're like, yeah, and there's a big thing. The new episode comes on like next Tuesday or whatever. So I ended up setting aside my evening on Tuesday to be like, well, I'm just gonna finish this off, see what's going on. And then she fucking died. And then there
Mhm.
was it. I don't know if you know this. The network was really shitty, but the show knew it got sold to UPN, but the network
Mhm.
they were on was really shitty about it, and they ended up putting up a big like we thank Buffy for the 5 years, and you know it's too bad that you're no longer going to be with us anymore. And there's this big like title card on it that essentially made you think that the show was canceled and there were never going to be any more episodes. And so like the ratings and the viewership dropped in season 6 because nobody knew it was happening because there was no announcement for it. We didn't have the fucking internet like that back in 97, right? Like there was no social media or anything. You had to go to a Buffy website and hope somebody knew the news, right? Like, that ended, and I didn't think anything else about it until like the end of the summer when I was watching something else, and there was like this commercial came on for season 6, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense to me. What's going on? And I've been kind of talking about this. I'd mentioned it to my friends. I'm like, the show's not as bad. You think it'd be a cheesy piece of shit for like little girls, and it isn't. It's like serialized, and they're killing main characters, and like it's really good. So DVD box sets were relatively new at the time, and I happened to be watching through Future Shop, Best Buy's predecessor, and I was walking through with a friend, and they had a deal on like buy 2 get 1 free. So we loaded up, and I watched the first 5 seasons of Buffy in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I have done that so many times. This is my most binged show. I've binged it minimum 8 times. Like start to finish, staying up till 4 a.m.
I don't know what it is. Like there's some parts of it where you can just like it will. This was the first show where I tried to watch 5 episodes in 3 hours before work. You know, like you just I can go a little bit more. I know I've got to leave here in 5 minutes, but there's only 20 minutes left in the episode. I could be late for work. Right? So like
it'll be fine.
So and then when I discovered that Angel spun off, Angel was not my favorite character in Buffy. But the show, for me anyway, became like it's probably one of my favorite shows just because of how fucking dark it gets. And then like I don't know, for someone who hasn't seen it, the shift from season 5 to season 6 of Buffy and from season 1 to season 2 of Angel, it all happened at kind of like the same time. Holy shit. Does it like suddenly, this is of all of the shows that I've ever seen, this is the one that grows up with you, right? Like if you were Buffy's age when season 1 came out, or maybe a couple of years younger, but when season 1 came out, the maturity level ages with you through the 7 seasons to the point where you get out of high school and you go into college, you become an adult, and life's problems become worse. Season 1 is like all about, you know, does this strange boy at school like me at this new school? And season 7's like, I have bills to pay.
Yeah. Feel
that. Let's jump into this really quickly because we've got 22 questions to go through, and I know you and I are going to ramble.
Yeah.
I know we're going to go off about this.
Yeah, I mean, we've had like late night conversations where neither of us could sleep, and we just started talking about Buffy.
I'm unapologetically a fan of this. I've got all of the. I mean, I think they're sitting in a box in my storage right now because who has room for DVD box sets on shelves? I have many shelves full of many books, and I just don't have the room for more shelves. I created an office for Mieka here in the last couple of years, and it's I've had to move all of my shit. I had a little nerd room where I would do all my D&D prep and stuff, and then I had a spare bedroom with like a couch in it and whatnot, and now she's got an office, and so all of my nerd stuff has been crammed into a very small room to the point where getting 3 people around the recording area is a bit tough. So we're I should dig them out again. It's been a fucking while, and I know Mieka hasn't seen them. But let's be honest, going back to season 1 of Buffy, it's a hard fucking sell for people these days. It is painfully 90s and painfully kids. Like it is a very immature show. But fuck, does it grow?
Good. It's so good.
It's so good.
I actually just on the other side of I have a very long desk setup. I have my recording area, and then I have a paint area, and over on my paint area I have an action figure of Spike and Anya that just hang out with me while I paint.
Nice. I have been to a couple of, we don't have Comic-Cons in Vancouver, but we have what's called fan expos, which are essentially the same thing, only it includes like there's a big film industry up here, so there's a lot of like TV shows that are filmed, and so Arrow, for a while was the show that was filmed up here. So
Yeah.
you were guaranteed to have 4 or 5 Arrowcast members and then a bunch of other people. James Marsters has been on so much shit and that has been filmed in Vancouver. So I've met him like 3 times, but I've never gotten a picture with him. He's never been available to do like photos or anything, but he's always there to like sign his stuff. And I'm not interested in having like a signed photograph, but like I've just
I am.
met
Next
him.
time, get a signature and send it to me.
All right, I will do. He's gonna be like, I'm gonna ask him for a signature for Pepperina. He's gonna be like, "Who, fucking what?"
Make it memorable.
So let's grab dice so that we can take turns asking the questions, because with only 2 of us, we're just gonna babble. So
yeah.
And then whoever asks the question, the other person will answer it, right?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
all right, let's roll.
Okay.
Natural 20.
I got a 19.
Yes. This is such a good episode already. All right, Peps, number 1. This is from digglybluemoonya, who has been kind of quiet on the subreddit, but then again, so is everybody else recently. So, but I know she's gonna love this episode specifically. There's a large paragraph in the inbox about it, which is just rambly as all hell. Which is
I feel like I'm pretty sure I requested this.
I think you and I had it. Yeah, we requested
I don't remember if it was on us like during a recording or in Discord or something, but I'm pretty sure I specifically requested this episode.
We did the Game of Thrones episode, right? Somebody sent in 20 episodes of Game of Thrones. Incidentally, before we get into this, if you are listening to this and there's a television show that you were like, hey guys, talk about this for 2 fucking hours, I am sure that across the gamut of whatever 14 fucking hosts or whatever we have, we can string 2 people together that have seen the show and will talk about it. So, like, and wildly like different science fiction and drama and fantasy stuff. Like, I'll go Breaking Bad through to the Gravity Falls. Like, let's fucking do this. Anyway, let's number 1, who's your favorite character?
Spike. I'm a hardcore Spike fan, like through and through.
Why?
I think, first of all, just hot vampire guy. I mean,
nobody else can see that you like closed your eyes and had a moment about that.
I had a moment every time. Had a moment. Hot vampire guy, and I believe that everybody on this that listens knows where I stand with hot vampire guys. As the wife of Strahd. But I also think he had like a really big growth arc through the whole thing. If you see Spike at the very beginning, hardcore BBEG, to the end, where I mean, even going through to Angel, where he is a ghost and has to figure that out, and just like his growth from BBEG to getting the chip in his head to having to learn how to interact with his enemies for to save his life, really, because he has no other choice. Because these other guys are, it's that like,
and then he went and put a soul in himself.
To
he
redeem
fell
himself.
in love as much as he could. So then he put a soul in himself, and then he realized that he was a bad person. And I mean, this is where we start off with like, he's a sexy vampire, and he was just like evil for season 2. And then there was a straight up like episode where he was the perpetrator in like a rape episode. And like the fact that he was not immediately vilified to get like, stake through the heart over that shit. The fact that there was this assault that happened, and then it was so complex in the story time or in the storyline at the time, and then there was redemption for his character afterwards. The sacrifices were made, and then he's a ghost. We have never seen any character just undermined and impotent as many times as Spike was just reduced to doing nothing but sitting on the fucking couch and pouting about it. And for some reason, I love it when Spike is sitting on the fucking couch pouting. That is my favorite version.
It's just his whole like, just every like one-liner and just him observing everything going on and just being like, I don't fucking care, but like still being there.
How did you feel when you found out he doesn't actually have a British accent in real life?
Oh, yeah, I feel like every everybody who had a crush on him, that was a hard hit.
Yeah.
Like, nope, he has platinum hair and a British accent. That's who he is, right?
I saw an interview with him years later. It was the first time I ever saw him without the British accent, and I thought he was doing a bad American accent.
Yeah,
and I was like trying to poke holes in
talking.
Yeah.
The harder hit was when I looked further into him and found out he was born the same year as my mom. And that was the harder hit for me. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he just is a vampire though, because he does not age at all.
Oh, no kidding.
Like, if you dyed his hair platinum again, he would look exactly like Spike when he first entered the game.
And he's the only one. Like, all of the other vampire actors over the years have, like, they have aged. But for some reason, he just has... It's probably the fucking cheekbones on that man.
Yeah.
But my favorite character is... and this surprises most people. I fucking love Wesley.
Yeah.
So fucking much. And I hated him in Buffy. And the first, like, half season then he showed up in Angel, I was not a fan. There is no more tragic character written ever than Wesley Wyndham Price, because holy shit, does he just never ever ever get to win. And even when he's doing the right thing for the greater good, he is a fucking bad guy and everybody else is trying to kill him. The man literally gets his throat slit for being right. I fucking love Wesley. And like I don't know. There's just there's something tragic about him, and he watching the descent from the bumbling happy, and again, another actor that is not British in real life.
Yeah.
Right. So, but he went from the comic relief bumbling idiot to like the darkest, most hardcore. He's the only one in the entire show that pulls out a shotgun and kneecaps somebody. Right. I fucking love that. He just went to the dark place and thrived there.
Yeah. He did he went from like bumbling idiot to like hardcore, like he saw some things and it changed him. And it was a hard change. And
he fucking died brutally for nothing at the end too. Like, it was rough. I fucking love Wesley. I love his tragic arc. Who is the best bad guy in you I'm super fucking excited.
You're just reading it.
I'm just reading it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, who's the best bad guy in Buffy?
The best bad guy specifically in Buffy, because I have thoughts about Angel, but the best bad guy specifically in Buffy is the Spike Cordelia duo with Angelus or Angelus rather. Those three are the fucking the best. I love Dark Willow. That was a great storyline. I strangely really liked the mayor for some reason.
Yeah.
But
the mayor with his like very evil plans, but also just Midwest dad.
Yeah,
personality.
I think the first was the scariest since the Master. Like they were the scariest bad guys. But I could watch the 3 vampires in season 2 dicking about for 10 more seasons.
Yeah.
They were loads of fun because
Drusilla was a lot of fun. Yeah. Like her whole character was just it had to have been so much fun to play her.
I also think that she was like, this was before emo kids when this came out, right? Like this emo wasn't a thing yet. Goth was around, but we hadn't done emo or vamp kids or scene kids or anything like that. All of those dark alternative kids, all of the girls of the late 90s, I think she was the fucking icon. Like, I can put on my black fucking boots and my red dress and just be weird and creepy and dark and evil and write poetry and hate the world. And like, she was one of the OG, like, I think she paved the way for the emo kids coming next. Anybody growing up on Drusilla hit high school and was an emo kid.
Yeah. I much preferred her over Darla, I have to say. Like,
yes.
I wasn't the biggest Darla fan.
Although I loved what Darla brought when the two of them teamed up in Angel in like season 2 of Angel. That was a lot of fun. The two of them running around, and the weird like grand mummy shit that was going on too.
The whole sire line and who's
weird but excellent.
Yeah. I have to give a shout out to the gentlemen in Hush. Like, they were creepy as fuck as bad guys.
Yes, 100%. The gentleman actually is that is probably, in my opinion, the scariest of all of the Buffy episodes, like legitimate scares.
Yeah.
I introduced Buffy to, well, my friend and I, we were walking through, we saw the box sets, and I'm like, trust me, let's watch this. So we sat down and we binged through them in 2 weeks together. And then the two of us slowly introduced it to everybody else. I don't know if we introduced it to Dan, because he might have discovered Buffy on his own. But definitely introduced it to Dave and Sean, who's on the podcast now, and a number of other people, and it was never really scary except for anybody except 2 episodes where they would talk about, or sorry, 3 episodes. The Gentleman was particularly scary. The beginning of season 7, when Willow comes back and nobody can see her, she's invisible, and there's that monster that paralyzes her and starts eating the strips of skin off of her stomach. Yeah, that always makes people's skin crawl. Especially I think for like a lot of the Buffy stuff is metaphorical as well, right? And the idea of like being paralyzed and having someone like play with your body is such a creepy and upsetting thing for a lot of women as well, right? That's and then
just when he peels off that piece of skin and eats it, like I still have like very vivid, like
it's one of the very
about it.
It is so vivid in my memory, right?
Yeah.
And then the last one was Caleb the Preacher by Nate Fillion in season 7.
Yeah.
He was legit scary, right?
Yeah.
So
he played that role really well.
Have
you went back and watched Hush post-COVID?
Not post-COVID.
Watch it post-COVID. It hits so much differently.
Really?
Because like we went through that. The like sudden quarantine, not knowing why, not being able to see people, not being able to talk to people, like
the isolation of it.
And just the like scariness of not knowing what's going on or how long this is going to last. Like like during COVID, because you had nothing to do, I binged Buffy again, and like it hit differently. It was like a whole other new episode watching it post-COVID.
I'll check it out. I'll watch it again. Look, of all of the episodes too, that one is such a good, easy one to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like the comedy in that hit well, but then the creepiness of it hit better, right? And so the other one that do you know the only Buffy episode that's been pulled from air? You're not allowed, that will never be aired again on television?
No.
So one where Jonathan takes a sniper rifle up into the fucking bell tower.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Which was again a couple of years ahead of its time on shit as well, right? Like that was I don't know if it was pre-Columbine, but it was definitely before the just epidemic of mass shooters in schools, right? That hit, about a decade later. So that got pulled, and I know that got pulled with the same there were all of these episodes and all of these shows that got pulled from network television immediately as a result to 9/11, and for some reason that was one of the 9/11 pulls, which was really odd, but I think they were getting rid of anything that was like terrorism related. So but shout out to the nerds for fucking as bad guys, because they were so funny and so stupid and so awkward and legitimately scary a couple of times. Yeah. And again, the only time on television where I was legitimately revolted by the presence of a gun, it was so out of place in this world and this storytelling. I could watch a million shows with shootouts and FBI agents pulling guns left, right. But the moment they put it in Warren's hand, it was so different. That just hit strange, and it wasn't good. Yeah,
because everything else was fantasy weapons. It was axes and swords and stakes, and it didn't feel as real life as a gun, I think.
Yeah, even with all of the initiative shit that was going on, and there's soldiers running around with guns, but it felt fantasy, right? And for some reason, Warren didn't. Although one of my favorite weapons in the whole thing was when it was oh god, can I pull this out of my fucking brain? There was a demon who could not be killed by any weapon forged by man, and so they're like, that was then, but I mean that was 3,000 years ago, so they went and got a bazooka and they just blew him the fuck up.
Oh, was it I want to say the judge, but that could be wrong.
No, the judge was
No.
in Angel, I
Was
think.
he?
He was blue, and they something that was a big deal. They combined all of his pieces together in Angel.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Kakistos, but I think that was Faith's nemesis when she first showed up. She was being hunted by an ancient vampire. I can't remember now. There have been so many Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
So, and it's, I want you to know, I've not watched the show in a decade, and me pulling this out of the back of my mind, this is how seminal it was for me. Like, up until this point, I was not really aware of overarching storylines, because growing up in the 90s and like the late 80s as a kid, we grew up on like Ninja Turtles and Transformers and G.I. Joes. There's no cohesive storyline through any of this. And then, I start watching TV with my parents, but it's all like Home Improvement and Full House and like the safe things you watch with your kids, and again, no overarching story. But my dad's favorite show of all time was MASH, and that does have a bit of overarching theme, but not necessarily story. So I started to watch all at the same time X-Files, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Buffy. And all three of them had very Monster of the Week, but also these huge season-spanning arcs, but also like it went from simple and kind of fun to very menacing and dark, and main characters dying in every one of those series, and it all kind of hit at the same time. And between those three shows, I think that is when television shifted, where we suddenly started to get these overarching storylines that were meant for younger audiences, right? That were meant for kids that were 14 through to like 25. Those demographics were finally given mature shit to watch that wasn't just Beverly Hills 90210, right? So I am flashing back to my fucking teenage years now in a big way.
Oh man, that was a big callback for me. The 90210. Yeah.
I remember I had a circle of friends when I was a teenager. Most of my friends were girls until I was about, I can say from between like 13 to 17. Most of my friends were girls. It was a good time to be alive for Adam, I will tell you.
Most of my friends were boys.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really interesting because I tried so hard to like watch the shit they were watching. I've seen every episode of Dawson's Creek. I have fucking opinions about Dawson's Creek, but I just could not get into 90210 or Melrose Place or Party of Five. And fuck, they would argue and they would talk, and I would just sit there and smile and nod and think, this is the tax that you pay for hanging out with girls when you were a teenager. So
we're only on question 3.
Yeah, all right, okay, moving along. Each of the big bad evil guys in Buffy are monsters, but what D&D monsters would you use for the Mayor or Adam or Glory or Dark Willow or the First? So translate these into D&D monsters, I guess. Let's do the Mayor. The big UNT monster, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a dude for most of it, right? And then they do his ascension, and he becomes a massive snake monster.
So he wasn't like, it's not a monster that is that thing, but turns into that thing.
Yeah,
like it's not something like a dragon that could transform back and forth.
No, he just became that. He stepped up,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like the UNT anathema, I guess. I would say dragon, but dragons are too powerful for the Mayor.
Yeah,
right?
You got taken out by a building at the end of the day.
Yeah. Adam
was a construct of some kind. I mean, he would be like a golem of like he was.
A flesh golem. Yeah. He's literally the Frankenstein parable, right? Like that's the Glory.
I mean, Glory is a god of some kind. I don't know all the gods, but definitely god level.
Yeah, I agree.
Got stuck in a universe. Yeah.
Dark Willow. Just a warlock.
Yeah, I was gonna say warlock too.
Right. Not quite a hag. We didn't get to that level, but clearly a evil wizard or a warlock, right? Just too much knowledge used in the wrong way. So
yeah.
What about the First?
Is there like what in D&D is that old?
It's like primordial evil that has spawned all other evil. Like it's not even a character at that point. It's like fighting the abyss, which just bubbles demons out for no fucking reason all the time, right? Like
right. Like the First is, I think beyond a monster.
If I was going to run an Asmodeus cult, I could base it off of the first storyline where you have a bunch of like cult members running around first, and then they're trying to make super monsters and super devils or whatever, the way he was trying to make the super vampires, and then send in a couple of like priest characters as well to like really fuck up your party.
Yeah.
You remember the time that they just like out of nowhere gouged out a character's eyeball with a thumb?
Yeah. I was literally just thinking about that.
Fuck. The show's so much better than it had any right
just
to be.
The thought of that too is just like a nightmare. Just
and they didn't do it to one of the warriors. They didn't do it to one of the fighters there. They had a room full of capable women that were trained in how to fight, and they grabbed Xander, the comic relief, and just gouged his fucking eyeball out.
Yeah.
Fuck, so good.
Yeah.
What was your least favorite season? Nope, shit, I'm doing it again. You asked. Yep.
What was your least favorite season?
Ugh, Adam, you're too excited. Season 1.
Yeah.
Season 1 had more episodes than I'm willing to skip. Out of all of them.
It's season 4, college season.
Yeah.
They had some very good episodes, but I could just skip to those episodes.
Yeah, I want to watch Hush and whatever Tara's in, and you know, there are bits and pieces that I grab. Whenever Spike is the main character for an episode, but I'm there for the B-lines. I gotta say, I never connected with Riley. I liked it well enough, but like I didn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
So
same. He was not. I often forget about Riley.
Yeah.
Like, just as a character. I'm like, oh yeah, there was that
guy. What's your least favorite season of Angel?
I think 3 and 4.
How come?
I don't remember them very well. I did not watch them very much. Yeah, I think I've seen season 1 and season 5 the most of Angel, and I've seen all of them, but I sort of skipped to season 5 once.
Season 2 and 3 are the season 2 is the Darla Drusilla storyline that then turns into the Angel's got a baby in season 2, and then Wesley kidnaps the baby and takes the baby to hell. Yeah, and then when we come back, it's season 3 is Connor. Yeah, like as an adult trying to figure his place out in the world. Yeah, and it's weird and wonky and lopsided, and everyone's turning on Wesley, and like it's the dark season. Yeah, it really is. But then
I think the Connor and Cordelia thing also, like
that was season 4. That's the one that makes me go, yeah, I see what you're doing, but I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Also, she was trying so hard to get out of her contract. Yeah, and they didn't want to let her go, and she was legitimately pregnant at the time, and they didn't know what to do with her. Yeah. So they were like, hey, you weren't supposed to get pregnant. You fucked up our storyline. So we're going to make you sit in bed, and then you're going to be a bad guy. And like one of the main good guys for the last like 8-9 years of television. Yeah. Just suddenly became a bad guy at the very end, and then fell into a coma, never be thought of again.
Right. So yeah, they did Cordelia dirty.
Yeah. There was a lot of problems, apparently. It's come out in recent years that Joss is not the feminist that everybody thought that he was, because he was cheating on his wife, and there's a lot of that. I have trouble faulting a person's entire career based on their personal romantic life. Yeah. However, apparently he was also prone to like screaming and throwing fits and making people feel so terrible that there was a rule on the Buffy set that the actor that played Dawn was not allowed to be, it was like this unspoken rule, not allowed to be alone with him, not because you can do anything creepy, but because he was such a force of anger and rage when shit didn't go well, and they didn't want to expose a kid to that, right? So yeah. So, and I know that he clashed with Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia, a lot, and in season 4, that's like it was his decision to really fuck her over and do her dirty at the end, just as a comeuppance to the actor, right? Which feels shitty, right? Yeah. So, what was your favorite season of Buffy?
7.
7?
Yep, season 7.
I gotta say, season 6 for me.
Yeah.
The not only do you get the memory loss episode and the musical, which were both phenomenal,
those are
you
both
get the biggest,
fantastic.
the second biggest, third biggest. I don't know where I rank it. There were 3 major gut punches in Buffy. The 3 hardest episodes to watch are when Angel gets sent to hell, and Joyce dying and Tara dying.
Oh yeah, the Joyce dying episode with like the no music.
It's on.
There were just certain choices they made, like Hush having no sound and the Joyce dying episode where there's no background music.
Yeah.
Just made it like those, and you don't realize how important those things are. Like just background music. Like you don't realize until you like it's just not there and you're like, this is just eerie as fuck.
Anya's fucking monologue about not understanding death and how you can move forward and how we're supposed to react and what are the right ways and things to say, and like it was so fucking heartbreaking. I will openly admit that is probably the first time that I openly cried during a television show.
Yeah.
Not the last by a fucking sight. We've had some gut punch fucking series and things since, but like that one hurt in a special way.
Yeah. And it being something that wasn't a monster.
That's what made it so damn scary. If I can be honest, I went through a bunch of, I mean, during the lockdown, I lost my job and my dad died on like the same weekend. And so, and then I had an entire lockdown, and Mieka had decided before either of those things, 2 days before, Mieka decided to cancel her trip up to see me. Right. So like it was very lonely. It was very isolating. And if I didn't have Dan and the podcast, I wouldn't have anything to focus on, except like Netflix and binging TV and whatnot. And Joyce and Tara dying are the reasons why I did not do the Buffy rewatch. I don't think I could have fucking handled that. So
during that time, I liked seeing all the potential slayers and just their interactions. Like that's why I love season 7, just bringing in all of those different characters and seeing them interact together.
I liked season 6 because it gave us in my opinion, everybody was firing on all cylinders for that one. Dawn finally had something to fucking do, which she didn't really in season 5, and Giles was still around because he fucked off for season 7, right? And so there was a lot going on, but the whole like reveal that she wasn't in hell, she was in heaven. And like that's such a good twist. Right? That nobody saw coming. So favorite season of Angel?
5.
Clearly that's the right answer. I love season 2 and season 3 because of the dark like Wesley storyline, the descent. But losing Fred to Illyria in season 5 and Spike running around as a fucking ghost.
Yeah. I love Spike and Angel together. Like I just love their dynamic of like
So I'm sorry, I have to ask you
about their family.
I have to ask you, and probably the most important question that is not on this list. Who would win in a fight, spacemen or cavemen? Astronauts or cavemen?
I mean, I think it depends on where the fight's at. Are they in space or
like you're giving like home field advantage, but no, like if you were to just put no technology, if you were to just put
no technology, then cavemen, because spacemen would be all like their tech is their strength.
I don't think so though. Like astronauts, they're going to have better tactics and strategy because they work together and they're highly intelligent. And remember, these are peak physical human beings.
Yeah. But there's something to be said about just the primalness of cavemen. Like they don't have the morals that spacemen would have.
But astronauts are specifically trained. Like I don't know. I gotta go with the brains beating the brawn on this one.
Yeah.
I think if you were to get a big ass gymnasium and you put 4 of each, and they know that they're allied, the astronauts, if they have even an ounce of time, they are absolutely going to win this because they get the plan, they get the plot, they get to figure it out. So I don't know. That's my favorite Spike and Angel moment too, is the 2 of them losing their shit in Angel's office and it's revealed that it's about astronauts versus cavemen.
But I would say cavemen plan too. Like it's a very different kind of planning, but they like have to hunt together and figure that shit out. And like they have their own tactics.
But they've never had to outthink other thinking creatures. They're just outthinking like buffalo and deer. And anyway, I could fucking go. This is the question. This is the question. So,
all right, Reddit, tell us your opinion.
you fucking know that the Patreon Discord is going to pop off about this.
What question are we on? Is it me?
Yes, it's you. See, this is what happens when I don't ask questions.
You've asked other questions that weren't in there. What's your favorite episode?
Oh, of Buffy? I don't know. Like in quality, the Joyce episode is number one. The first episode I ever saw live was the one where she actually fucking dies.
Yeah.
I think that the musical episode is pretty freaking perfect. I'm not a big musical guy, but there is so much that is revealed in that episode that just peels back every single character's motivations and really lays bare everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one is so good. My favorite episode, Hush, is so fucking good. Hush is so fucking good. It's the only one so far that we've mentioned by name, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the time that Faith and Buffy swapped bodies for no reason. That was a lot of fun for a couple of episodes. I don't know. For Buffy specifically, probably I'm gonna say the musical, just for the reveals all the way through it.
Yeah. So what's more with feeling? I have that soundtrack on my phone. I listen to it often. Like I know those songs so well.
I have it on CD.
Again, I do too. I have it on CD. This is how long I've had it. I loaded it into my computer on like iTunes way the fuck back in the day. I had it on on an iPod.
I remember
that's how long I've been listening to these.
I'm gonna take it a step back. The first time that I ever actually listened to it independently of like on a CD or watching the show. The very first time that I saw it is I went home after seeing the show at my friend's house. We would get together weekly and watch it. And I would go home and I went right to LimeWire and downloaded that shit. And I had to download it twice because the first one was just gay porn. Because that's what LimeWire was. Yeah. You would click it hoping that the title was correct. It downloaded way too quickly. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't good. That's gay porn. Okay.
Yeah. I like Once More with Feeling and Tabula Rasa right next to each other.
Yeah.
Are amazing. I can't watch one without the other. Like I have to watch them together. Yeah. Those two are phenomenal together.
Yeah. There was the episode in season 7. I can't remember what it's titled, although I used to know it. Was the one where all of the dead people come back to talk to them, and Dawn thinks that Joyce is coming back and is like banging on the door. That one stuck with me as being like a particularly atmospheric and creepy episode it took a second to deconstruct kind of what Buffy was about, which was good as well. That one was really solid. Do you have a least favorite episode? Is there one that you're just like, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna skip it every time?
No. I mean, when I watch it, like I watch every episode. I know there's some where I'm like, meh, but like I will still watch it. Like there's none that I will skip. There's some that I will watch independently that I've seen more than like I will just turn on Once More with Feeling and Tabula Rasa. I will just turn on Hush. But yeah, if I'm sitting down to watch it all, I watch it all.
I think the one that I will skip pretty much every single time is Ted.
Yeah.
Like R.I.P. John Ritter, but fuck, I don't. That is by far the most like 12-year-old episode. Yeah. That and I think Beer Bad. Those are the ones where that's when the phone comes out. I'll let her run, but the phone comes out for this. So.
Yeah. There's definitely ones that I like pay less attention to when I'm watching.
This one is a do dishes episode. Yeah.
I do love the line. I think it's in Beer Bad, the fire bad tree pretty.
Yeah.
I know somebody that has like a bracelet that says that.
I have been drunk and said that to people more than once.
Well, my sister-in-law and I will say that to each other when we're having like a rough day and we're just like can't
Yeah.
we'll be like fire bad, tree pretty, and we just know. Like,
That,
okay.
that is legitimately my go-to of when right before, when you're just shit-faced, but you can still stay on your feet. You're not quite, oh look, the ground is the right answer. Like it's time to sit no matter where I am. Right before that stage is fire bad, tree pretty. And that is how I communicate that I should probably stop doing shots. Unfortunately, nobody in my current life gets that reference. And I'm just fucked.
Text me and I'll just be like, sit down, Adam.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a favorite episode of Angel? Is there any one that sticks out to you?
I don't think there's a specific episode in Angel that sticks out, which again, I have seen Angel far less than I've seen Buffy. But I can't like pinpoint.
It was so serialized for so long.
I really liked the one where they saw the Slayer that lost her mind.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I gotta say, my favorite episode is probably the finale. It was so fucking good to have the whole season come together, all season 5 come together.
Yeah.
And then you just watch the good guys know they're going to lose and do their fucking damnedest anyway. And I loved that. The last
is like every D&D campaign, when you reach the end, you're like, I don't know that we're gonna win, but we're gonna fucking do the thing. Like, I think every party has been there. Like
my last campaign was the Fall from Grace campaign, where all of my players were corrupted and became evil in the last like 3 sessions. I started off with a number of we went through a bunch of characters. There, Megan's character, Casey's character, and Dan's character were there the whole time, but that 4th slot went through a number of different characters and a couple different players, and like there were some deaths, like they retired some characters, and like it was rough to get to that point. And Charlie came in and he joined at like level 19 with a character. He said, I'll finish the campaign of this character. And I said, that's great, but you're not going to play in the last session. I will give you your character's resolution in the second last session so that these 3 characters get their fucking spotlight. And by the time that happened, Dan's character had already been turned into a vampire and was literally banned from being able to enter the last stage. So it was just Megan and Casey, who at this point, their characters were in direct opposition to each other, but they had to go stop the end of existence. So they had that moment at the end of Angel. And I thought about this at the time. I think I subconsciously built this moment of that. Where's Wesley? He didn't make it. Right. And Gunn is wounded and bleeding out. And it's the 2 vampires, and Illyria pops up. And they're like, what? So what do we do now? Let's go to work. And then they end on that moment. And I'm like,
fuck.
With the army coming down on top of them and just let's go to work. And I watched Megan and Casey do it. And I think everybody at the table just had fucking chills. It was so good. So, what is your favorite piece of lore in Buffy? That's so vague.
I love any episode that goes back in time in the Spike, Angel, Drusilla,
all the flashback shit.
All the flashback shit. Like, I love those episodes where you get to see who they were. Like, especially like the ones, like there's quite a bit of Spike before he was Spike, like as William, not even William the Bloody, but just William.
William the Bloody Awful.
Which even like continues his story arc and his character growth of where he started, like, because we see him start as a BBG and then we see him get back to more of William towards in season 7 where he's that hopeless romantic, but seeing like where he actually started to where he went to then where he
it's funny because these 2 shows are one of the only shows for anybody that is listening that hasn't seen these shows and they're like, what the fuck are these guys battling about?
First go binge all of the seasons and then come back.
It's just about the only time where we have a couple of main characters in Spike and Angel, although Drusilla and Darla get the same treatment. We've got these characters that are hundreds of years old and we get introduced to them when they're in the shit of it already, right?
Yeah.
And we not only get to see them progress forward, but we get to tell their story backwards. We get to see them get closer and closer to when they were just good, right? And it's amazing to me that David Boreanaz was able to, like, I'm not going to say that he was able to keep step with the acting chops of James Marsden or Juliet Landau. Like, Spike and Drew fucking knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
But he did a pretty good job, considering that he was discovered on the side of the road walking his dog. He was a male model, and they're like, hey, you know what? You need to be our love interest in this teenage show. And then he ended up carrying his own show later. He did a pretty good fucking job, considering the lack of acting history that he had.
Yeah.
But it is amazing to watch the progression at the same time of, this is how we're getting less evil in the future and why we were less evil in the past. And it was really cool to watch them continue that lore for seasons. There was always flashbacks, right? So
yeah, and you never knew when they were coming. Like, it wasn't just oh, this season we're gonna have these arcs. Like, they came up sporadically and throughout, and like each piece just really showed more of who they were and made their characters even more complex, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you would get little snippets of, like, you heard that Angel changed Drew and she was in a, like, she was going to be a nun or something like that. Like, she was in a, but then you, like, get to see it too. Like, it's not just a thing they said in passing. Like, you see,
and they did it in the darkest way possible. Like, he didn't just, like, and he turned her into a vampire. No, he fucked with her and drove her crazy.
Yeah.
First, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was dark, and they didn't just mention it in passing. Like you said, they played in it.
Yeah.
Right. That's very, very cool. My favorite piece of lore in Buffy, I love the idea of the Watchers.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that there's a handler, like, for all of the superhero shit that we've had in the last 20 years, right? We haven't really had anyone that's, like, got a just human in the background that's more than just the guy in the chair, right? They're someone who was there for guidance and training and will get you to move forward. Like, I liked BPRD for Hellboy as well. Like, Hellboy has an institution behind him helping him do shit and working with him, and Buffy had that as well. And I really like that. I could have seen a bunch more Watcher shit, because Wesley I loved. Giles is, of course, probably fucking, like, he might be ultimately my favorite Buffy character, right? Because he, for the whole time. But they even had, what's his name? Hold on, I can do this. Ethan Rain, who was the fallen Watcher, right? That was like Giles's. And I gotta say, I am pissed we never got more about Ripper.
Yeah.
Fuck, I would have watched the shit out of that.
Yeah, that needed to be a spinoff. Just
Spike or Angel? Oh no, that's you. Fuck.
Spike or Angel?
Angel.
Spike.
I get it. And Spike, and like, honestly, depending on the day, it is Spike. But ultimately, Angel's tragic. Spike won at the end of Buffy. At the very last moment, when he died at the end of Buffy, he finally got his redemption. He finally got what he wanted. Angel never got what he wanted.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the thing that he wanted the most was Buffy, and he couldn't have it. The thing that he wanted the most after that, like, his next goal was to be a good father to Connor. And the only way that he could be a good father is to wipe his memory and have somebody else adopt him and not have a relationship with his son. That's fucking heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just love the tragedy. The Angel never got proper love. Like, he almost loved Darla again, right? And then nope, that went fucking sour in a big goddamn way, right? He almost had a best friend in Wesley, but then Wesley betrayed him, right? And there was just one thing after that. He never got the win.
Yeah.
And nobody like, Buffy had people die, but she was not directly responsible for their well-being the way that Angel was responsible for his friends and employees. And Doyle died on Angel's watch. Fred died on Angel's watch, right? Like, everybody was systematically just, he could not win. The only person that was there shoulder to shoulder with him at the very end was fucking Spike, which is like, what a kick in the balls.
I love their love-hate relationship. Like,
How much Spike and Angel are in love fanfic have you read over the years?
I am not a I'm
You
not
don't
a
have to answer that.
fanfic
You don't have to
reader,
answer.
but oh, I actually have a box set of just Spike episodes.
That is phenomenal. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me see what episodes are. It's called Spike Love is Hell. I gotta turn my background off so you can see it. Just let's blur it. I don't want to blur it. I want to turn it off. Oh wait, choose virtual background. No. Okay.
I have seen that picture before. I didn't realize that. How many episodes are in that?
There is School Hard, Lie to Me, Lover's Walk, and Fool for Love.
That's a pretty good arc. And they didn't get in any of the really weird dark let's bring the house down around us hardcore banging in the later seasons.
That Crash? I want to say that episode called Crash.
Yeah.
I've watched that episode a few times on its own as well.
Why?
And then there's a special feature, Spike character profile featurette at the end of it.
I gotta say, I fucking like streaming is doing us dirty by not letting us own our own media. I really don't like the idea of I pay monthly fees to rent shit. I don't like the fact that you can now buy cars and you have to pay a monthly fee to unlock shit like heated seats, right? Like I really hate the direction we're heading where we are all going to just owe the companies our entire existence. But the thing that I miss the most about DVDs specifically is the special features. So much good shit. I swear by them.
Watching it back with like the characters' commentary and things.
Yeah. I gotta say, like the Lord of the Rings box sets, the special edition, like the extended edition ones. There's so much good shit in that. I don't know. I should start buying fucking Blu-rays again. Now that Best Buy is dying and is not going to carry like fucking physical media anymore. Yeah. Like I should start investing. Are they still just expensive for no reason though?
I don't know. I haven't bought a DVD in a very long time.
I bet that the last thing that I bought as far as physical media goes was Firefly. And because
I've got that literally in arm's reach too.
I have goddamn, someone send us 20 questions about Firefly because I could go off. But I
also have shirts I could wear for that. No one can see, but I'm in a Sunnydale Lumber t-shirt.
Which I absolutely
colors of their high school.
I absolutely love. I had a Blue Sun t-shirt for years. For Firefly, and
I have Jane's hat. I wear it in the winter time.
I have Jane's hat as well. Yeah. So
I wear it hunting because it's bright orange.
I used to wear it like in just winter, but we're in Vancouver, so like it gets cold, but it doesn't get cold, and our cold is wet. So like a knitted toque is not the best answer, like for headgear, because you just end up wearing an ice cube, right? Yeah. It's just too humid and too cold. So I would wear it, but I would wear it infrequently. Like if I was on our transit system or something, I would wear Jane's toque. And I always thought that like it was always ironic. I'd wear it if I was with somebody who got the reference, right? I'm not one of those guys that just like wears it all the time for no reason. But I stopped wearing it because it is so ugly and so ridiculous. And I was starting to talk to Mieka regularly, and we would like FaceTime and stuff. And I kept having to pull the toque off and hold it in one hand so she wouldn't see me with this ridiculous orange fucking traffic cone on my head. Because it was early enough in the relationship that like I was like, I need to make a good impression. And then I stopped wearing it and then ended up in a box because I moved, and I never pulled it out again. So now she has seen and loved Firefly and seen and been betrayed by Serenity. And now she would get the reference. But she's been looking at, I've got magnets that I bought at one of the fan expos of all the Firefly characters and a Reaver and Serenity, but it also has Jane's hat. As another special little magnet, and they all been on the side of my fridge for years. And Mieka's always seen them and never asked, but like, I wonder who those characters are. Then we watched Firefly, and then a month later, she was standing in the kitchen. She was like drying dishes, and she looked over. And she went, "Oh, I get it." So Yeah, I don't know. I gotta go with Angel.
Mhm.
I do not blame anybody for choosing Spike. Spike is just the fucking
Mhm.
best. So
Yeah.
also, I don't know if it's because it's in the opening credits for a while, but
Mhm.
him in his like Billy Idol, like 80s flashback, the punk,
Yeah.
that is definitive Spike. And I don't know why, because that was one episode, and like,
Yeah.
but there's something about that is just so fucking on point.
I love what somebody said something about like he stole Billy Idol's look, and he was like, "No, he stole it from me."
Yep.
And then when he takes the coat off the dead Slayer, and that's how you realize he gets his trench coat.
Heartbreaking.
So
And only to meet
good.
that Slayer's son as a grown adult later. Like,
Uh-huh. And he's like, "You killed my mom," and he's like, "You're gonna have to be more specific."
this show is so fucking good. We got
and then does he take the coat off of Spike at one point?
he does. He has
Yeah,
the shed full of crosses and
the
he
crosses, and he
on
lures
Spike.
him in, and he plays the song
Yep.
that Spike's mom used to sing.
Yep.
So good.
We've got 4 questions all in a row here that are all pretty similar, but let's jump into them. The first one is, what class is Xander?
Bard.
Yeah.
Like he's there to inspire them. Like that's what he does. He like gives them all those like inspirational talks of like, you can do this, and I'm just this guy, but you can do this and you can save us. And
I was always a little annoyed, not really annoyed, but I was always just like, raise one eyebrow, that Xander never got his moment. He was never badass. His moment was talking about a crayon, right? And that was his most definitive moment, was talking Dark Willow down off the ledge, right?
Yeah.
Or letting Dawn feel validated, or like he was really, really quickly relegated to sidekick status and then never outgrew it. Yeah. And I always wanted him to do more. And I know that there's a bunch of Buffy comics. I collected them for a little while. I was working in a comic book store at the time when they were coming out, but there were Buffy and Angel comics that came out to be season 8 and 6 respectively. And it was like, they were good. And he had stepped up in the comics to be like a watcher for, like a headquarters for all of these people that were out on, all of these Slayers that were out on missions around the world and stuff. And that felt good for him, that he was doing kind of the Nick Fury thing. Yeah. They even say that in the comic because he's got an eye patch. Yeah. So
did you see there's new Buffy books on Audible voiced by the actors? It like just came out like last week.
Fuck, Peps, I don't have time for this. I need sleep. I need sleep at some point. Fuck around. All right. I just discovered two new podcasts that I'm like,
yeah.
And I drive to work once a week, maybe like once every 2 weeks at this point. So I'm so far behind on the shit I'm listening to, because I'm busy listening to actually Megan's voice more than anybody else's, because she's on so many fucking series. But
sorry. I was looking up the Buffy thing. I accidentally pressed play on the book I'm currently. It's Slayers, a Buffyverse story.
All right. God damn it. All right.
Yeah, I forget which actors are in it. It definitely right off the bat has Cordelia and Spike.
Well, I mean,
and then there's some other ones. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. You've ruined my fucking week. Here we go.
I have to finish the book I'm listening to before I buy that one.
Oh, okay. So Xander's a bard, I guess. Feels right. As I go through the rest of them, like he doesn't. I was gonna say he's a purple dragon knight, because a lot of the subclass features are social, and he's relatively useless in a fight. Like he can swing a sword or an axe, but he's gonna get his ass kicked more than anybody else's.
Yeah, he can not die.
Yeah. Yeah, not for lack of trying though. Holy shit.
Yeah, and even just the like, I don't know, when Buffy dies and he's the one that brings her back. Like, yeah.
And then, yeah, it's an interesting storyline. I like the story is so pro-feminist, and so not having the men be the center of attention, getting the spotlight, feels good. It feels right. Yeah. I would have loved to have explored like one episode a season, maybe not even that much, Xander's irrelevance. He had one episode where there were like a bunch of like zombie bullies that came back, and he got all caught up with them for one episode. Yeah. Right. But like, and because he was feeling useless, and he he had a good monologue in season 7 with, I think it was to Dawn, about how his job is to sit back and just be the emotional support. Like, he doesn't get to be the hero. And it took him a while to get to that point. I would have liked episodes exploring that arc. But as much as I would have wanted that, I would have much rather gotten more Spike or Willow or Giles, or like, there are other characters that I was happier that we explored. I was a little choked when we had to go through was a principal book. What was his name? Principal in season 7. What was the principal's name?
Season 7?
Yeah.
That was the Slayer's son.
Yeah, what was his name? What was the character's name?
I have to Google.
I'm Googling it now too, just because it's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah. Wood. Robin Wood.
Wood, not Book. Wood. Yeah.
Wood.
I really like that actor too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little choked that we got so much flashback shit for him in season 7 when we had other characters that could have been developed more. Like like Andrew's fallout in season 7. We could have used another episode on him and the darkness behind that, or Anya's. Anya and Xander didn't really do much in season 7, and they could have. There was stuff.
Yeah, they were just babysitting a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were babysitting Andrew, they were babysitting Slayers. I loved Andrew though. He was one of my favorites. I love when he came back in season 5 of
Angel.
Angel too, yeah, for an episode. And he was like all cool and his
he was trying so hard to wear his turtleneck and be good.
All right. What class is Anya?
She was a god. She's a depowered god. What is a depowered god? What class is that?
I would say Warlock, because she got her powers by signing a pact.
Yeah, that's fair. I would have said that anybody that signed the pact with her would have been a warlock, because they were the ones getting wishes granted.
Yeah, but ultimately she got her powers to do that from somebody else.
Actually, that's true.
For her, and then she failed at her job, and her powers were taken away.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
How did you feel about their wedding?
I don't know. It's one of those, I hate in all shows that like you invest so much time into a couple and then they just dissolve for no real fucking reason. Like I hate that. Like just let them be happy. Just let them be married.
I don't even mind if they dissolve over a real issue and not just
it wasn't. There was no fucking reason.
Let me tell you something. I'm going through the engagement shit right now with Mieke. The number one argument that we have had more than any other by a fucking site is the guest list.
Yeah.
Like, as much money as we're spending and decorations have been chosen, and it's complicated because we got to line up suits, but like half of the wedding party is in Canada and half of the wedding party is in America. And like, I will never have all of the groomsmen together to go like do like suit fittings and shit. So there's a lot of balancing, a lot of organizing, a lot of scheduling, and it's a lot. It is a lot. However, the thing that we fight about more than anything else is guest list. But at no point has it made either of us want to like cancel the fucking wedding. Like, and
to be fair, they're not demons on either side though.
Oh, you say that. You say that. Wait until you see who shows up. I fucking invite
both of your families. I'm not gonna.
I have very few people coming from my family, actually. I've got a very small, I mean, my family's big, but we were on the opposite coast growing up. I don't know any of them. I've got like one uncle from each side, and that's it. And so everyone coming from my side are my friends, and these are my friends are the demons. They are going to come in from out of town as a bunch of weird, strange, unable to stop cursing because we're all fucking Canadian, right? And it's just part of our lexicon. They're just gonna bubble their way in.
Some of your friends, so I can vouch for.
It is going to be.
You do have Dan on your side. So.
You know, I just remembered Clem from season 7, and that Dan is my Clem.
Loved Clem. Oh, when they play poker and gamble for cats.
Yep.
I love it.
What class is Buffy?
I mean, I'd say fighter. Like, she's your champion, you know.
Yeah, she's not casting spells. She doesn't rage. She's not stealthy like a rogue.
Yeah.
She's champion fighter.
Yeah, or what is it, battle?
The battle master, but she doesn't really like lead anybody else into battle. Even when she does, they usually fucking fail. Like Faith is a battle master in season 7 more than anything else.
She more so tells people not to follow her, and they just do.
Yeah. Maybe Buffy like a gloom.
Like she will lead people in like you do this, you hit research, you do this. I'm gonna go patrol. Like
yeah, but
she gets a little bit into that. But yeah, I think more champion
fighter. Again, I could have her be a Gloomstalker Ranger just because of how much time she spends out at night walking around, and she's
with
more yeah, she's fightier than a rogue, but yeah, champion fighter feels right.
Yeah. What class is Dawn?
NPC. Sidekick. Dawn does very fucking little. I would say that she is Warlock, because everything that she does, the moment she's no longer the key and we don't have to worry about that shit anymore, the moment we don't worry about that, she's consistently trying to learn magic and borrow powers from everybody else, and every time that she does that, it becomes a fucking problem. And I think we see that storyline like 6 times where she I mean the musical is one of them, right? Where she just
she's stealing things. Is she a rogue?
She's not sneaky enough.
I mean, she tried to be sneaky with the like stealing things, and she went through that like teenage rebellion of sneaking out and
like she tries. She's edgy enough. Like she's her diary probably reads like a rogue's diary.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
She's
like just not a great rogue.
She's a level 2 rogue. Yeah,
she's a rogue who rolled very low stats.
She clearly came in mid-campaign. And doesn't understand the dynamic of the rest of the party.
She's that character that died, and then like the player has to come back with a new character.
Yeah.
But like as the key, I would say sorcerer, because she's innate magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then like that goes, so it's the character that you think is one thing, and then something happens and they like have to switch class halfway through.
Oh, fuck. I've got a couple of those. Charlie plays a character all the time. I'm this, and everyone says okay, and then he starts using spells that he shouldn't have access to or whatever. And they're like, what are you really?
Yeah.
What can we actually rely on you for? At this point, he's learned that the reveal is satisfactory when the characters don't know, but the players do. So the players get to watch it unravel and enjoy it. So there's that. The meta knowledge is like, yes, absolutely, we love this, but the characters are appropriately shocked in the moment, which is fun.
See, I played in a game where one of the characters sat on a throne and you had to roll, and there was a random table that went with the throne, and he had to change his class completely. So he went from rogue to I want to say like an evil cleric of an evil god that made this chair, but it was random. Like he had to roll, and it could have been like so many different things, and it just happened to be that. And I feel like that's Dawn. Like she started as a sorcerer, and then like that got taken away. Yeah.
Then she became a commoner for a little while, and then slowly started to take levels in Warlock. I was that a campaign, or was that like a one shot? That
it was a podcast I used to be on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That just feels really brutal. There's one thing in the Tomb of Horrors where if you fail the test, you don't make the save, whatever it is, you end up getting your gender swapped. It's actually your sex and gender swap. And in today's day and age, I think that's particularly loaded. That's not the shits and giggles it was back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. But I keep an eye out for shit like that. Like reincarnation is another one. Like, yeah, your character can come back, but they're a different race now. And that always feels so punishing to the
I just had, it was a choice, so it wasn't like he had to. But in the last session I played, there is a dwarf, and he could have chosen to become a warforged, to have his like mind put into a mech suit and become a warforged, and it would have changed his race in the game completely.
And if you make it a choice, that's fine. One of the things that I like to do, actually, my party is almost ready for this. We've gotten to the point about level 6 to 8, somewhere around there. I like to give I call it a pool of destiny, and it's any player character can walk into it once, and what they can do is they cannot change their race, but they can change their class and background and change their backstory, and so they get to rewrite just by soaking for a long rest inside this what looks like naturally occurring glowing pool. And it's worked to good success for people that didn't like the way that they ended up building their character, right? So a dwarf is still a dwarf, an elf is still an elf, but you can choose to be like, I don't want to be a fighter anymore. I would rather have played a barbarian or a rogue. Or if you didn't like the way that you multi-classed, you can say, you know what, I'm going to get rid of these levels and I'm going to take these levels instead. And you just get to rebuild it from the ground up with your original stats. So all the ASIs and feats are locked, or not feats, the ASIs are locked in, right? So that you're not changing, but you can change what order they go in, right? So that I've done that. It's been pretty good. I've had a couple people take me up on that. Casey got rid of a level of rogue at one point. Remember Jamie rewrote an entire subclass for himself. Like it's useful, but I don't like forcing that on people. It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
This one's okay. We got a list here.
Yeah.
Oz, Riley, Wesley, Angel, Cordelia, Spike, Giles, and Joyce all left the show in the middle. Who do you miss the most? Well, we're missing people off this list though, because like Riley made the list, but fucking Tara didn't.
Yeah.
Oz, Riley, Wesley. I mean,
like
Faith,
Spike left and came back. He was in and out.
Yeah. Faith is not on the list. She should be on the list as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whose sudden absence did you feel the most in the following episodes?
I think of that list, like the one I would have loved to see more of was Oz.
Yeah. Losing Oz
as a character.
Look, I love Tara. I'm glad we had the space for Tara to come in. That was probably my favorite relationship on the entire show. Mm-hmm. Because it was the one that felt like it was a real relationship and not a television relationship.
Yeah.
But fuck, I was a big fan of Seth Green for years. Like I grew up watching Seth Green. He's like he started doing Robot Chicken and then kind of fell off, and Family Guy, and I'm like, I'm not interested in your other shit. I would rather you were still in movies and stuff. So
do you remember Idle Hands? He was in that.
You are the only person that I've ever met that has asked me, do you remember Idle Hands? Idle Hands, I watched last night. It is my only.
I haven't seen it in so long, but that movie is one that like sticks with me. I want to watch it again so bad. I need to see if it lives up in my head.
Oh, it is so late 90s, it is painful. Yeah. However, it is my only traditional Halloween rewatch.
Yeah.
I will always watch Idle Hands. As a matter of fact, I've got a folder on my computer of shows that go from one computer to another and one drive to another. And so and I consistently, I'm thinking I'm on like the 8th computer now that I've moved this stuff over to. Idle Hands is one of the 5 or 6 files in that. I don't know why, but I'm never going to take it out. And it's it's one of those things that I was working late last night and I'm like, I should edit. I'm like, wait a minute, it's 5 days till Halloween. Here we go. So I fucking love Idle Hands, and the soundtrack is solid.
Yeah.
And
I need to rewatch it. It's been at least 1.5 decades, I think, since I've seen it.
Oh shit. Yeah, you're in for a good time. Also, Jessica Alba was, I think, discovered in that movie or around then as well. Remember when Devon Sawa was a fucking movie star? That was good time.
I have pictures of him on my wall.
Yeah, you would have been the right age for that.
Yeah.
I was under the impression in my mid-teens that Devon Sawa's career got sniped by Leonardo DiCaprio.
I can see that.
If Devon Sawa had been cast in that Romeo and Juliet, the world would be different today.
Yeah, I can see it.
Who do I miss the most?
We are going off on so many different.
I told you, we said in our private messages, we said this is going to be the most rambled, fucking confused episode. But we got to, I know.
Right. I got to leave in an hour. We got to get.
All right. Okay. I definitely felt the loss of Angel when he was missing in season 3. It felt odd. Mm-hmm. Or sorry, in season 4, it felt odd, like he was just gone. Yeah. Right. But I did not like Giles leaving. Giles has been like potentially one of my favorites in any given scene that he is in. I could always watch more Anthony Stewart Head.
Yeah, he's good. He was definitely the like father figure that all of those kids needed. Like, you only saw Joyce as a parent. Like, you heard Xander's parents like yelling from the top floor when like he lived in their basement, and you saw Willow's like once.
Willow's mom popped up in season 1 for like half of a scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's one thing as a mom when I rewatch it, I'm like, where are all of their parents at?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like,
I just imagine there's so many scenes where Joyce is getting a phone call from Willow's mom. Is Willow there? Yes, she's there. Right. Like, there's a lot of that shit going on in the background.
That is like rewatching it during COVID. I'm like, I can tell that I'm old now because I identify most with Joyce.
It's interesting. I remember thinking at the time how much, and I still believe this, how much I appreciate the fact that they didn't get Giles and Joyce to hook up.
Mm-hmm.
They did it for that one episode where all the adults were pushed back to be teenagers, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they never had that moment, every other show would have done it, would have had like the father figure and the mom hook up, and they never did. There was mutual respect, there was understanding, but Joyce like straight up didn't trust Giles for a while as well. Just like I appreciate
get that. He's like this old guy just hanging around your teenage daughter. Like there's
yeah. No, I appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Buffy herself subverts a lot of old stereotypes. Was there anything else that stood out to you as being a great flip on a stereotype or trope?
I mean, the premise of the whole thing is like the blonde girl that gets murdered in the first scene is actually the most capable part. Like that's the whole shtick. That's the gimmick. Even the movie, right? Like that's what it's all about. But
I've got that somewhere too.
I find that one painful to watch. That one's harder for me to get through. I'm not a fan of the so bad it's good movies, and it's a little too cheesy for me.
Well, you had mentioned 90210, and what is Dylan? I think was in that one.
Anyone else stood anything else stood out as being a great flip on a stereotype or a trope? I liked the no weapon forged by man turns out to be a bazooka. That was a good flip. Yeah. Okay, my favorite thing is that they found a loophole in their own lore, and it's almost like it was written to be this way. One of the big strokes of genius was in every generation of Slayers born, there can be only one, right? And then they managed to, by killing Buffy once, bring in Kendra. By killing Kendra, bringing in Faith. But Buffy's still around. And then when Buffy died again, it didn't bring in a new Slayer. Like there was, like Faith was the one that would have to die.
Debate. Like in the Buffy, like that is such a huge debate that goes down.
But I really liked that. It ended up not mattering anyway because all like girl power, right? But like it was,
which I just had a friend present to me a theory on this.
Maybe midgets. She had a theory, and maybe midgets.
It might be. It's probably bunnies. When they all get activated, does Willow kill them each for a millisecond to activate the next one? That's like a fan theory that's out there apparently. I just had this discussion like
it's an interesting theory, but we literally see them power up. The one distinctly in my head is a little girl who's playing baseball right? Yeah, with the baseball
that's the one that popped in my head too, and I was like, no.
But like we see them, it's not like they their eyes don't roll back and they collapse and stand up more powerful. If they did that, maybe, but like no, they're very much just suddenly someone flipped the light switch. That's in my head. There's a switch between the shoulder blades, and you just flip the light switch. Poof, now they've got their power, right? So I don't know. This is a good question. There were a lot of tropes, and almost like episode by episode, they subverted a bunch of tropes as well. But the biggest thing was just like they put the power in the hands of women. And if you think about it, up until that point, girl-centric shows were soap operas and sitcoms, right? We didn't have Alias yet. We didn't have what was the James Cameron one? Dark Angel. Like we didn't have any of these like big power, like Xena was around, and I think that was the only other thing that was comparable at this point, right? So but
also Xena was like she was a beefy, like she was an Amazon, like she wasn't this like 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like you look at Xena and like, yeah, she's gonna fuck shit up. Like you don't look at Buffy and
Like I always like every time that someone in Xena, not that I watched a whole lot of it and we should stop doing tangents, but every time that there was someone in Xena that was like, what are you gonna do, girl? I'm like, she's twice your size, she's gonna eat you. She will actually fucking literally eat you. Why are you mouthing off?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite stereotype or trope that got flipped? A thing that was
Trying to think. Nothing is like really popping in my head. But yeah, I think just the whole thing is just a stereotype that gets flipped, you know? And I think, I mean, and there's even like Buffy herself is the like small girl, but like that also with Willow as the nerd, you know, who then comes into herself. And like I think she breaks a lot of stereotypes of that like nerdy mousy girl that, you know.
And frankly, we'd been seeing guys in popular media since like the 70s, since like Revenge of the Nerds, where nerds were stepping up to reclaim their power. Do not go back watch Revenge of the Nerds. It's problematic as fuck. But like but we have seen that trope over and over and over again. I feel like, and someone will correct me on this, but I feel like this was a turning point for girl nerds, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like when she dressed up as Vampire Willow. And
that's an episode that we haven't talked about, is the alternate, like dark, like the mirrorverse, the flip one. Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's called Doppelganger.
Yeah. Those ones, so good.
So good. I love seeing just the different versions of Willow, but I think they're all inside of her, you know?
Yeah. I think I'm kind of gay. Well, that paid off a lot later, didn't it? What was a plot you wanted to see more of that just kind of disappeared?
I don't know. The ones that I think of that just kind of disappeared, I was like, okay. Like, let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was introduced with Glory that we never touched on again. Like all of those knights attacking the RV, and like there was just a lot of stuff in season 5 that didn't make it back into season 6.
Yeah, but like I don't know, I was okay with that, and I don't know if it's because season 6 was so good that I just like I'm good with moving on from this. But yeah, there was a lot with Glory, and like she really brought in that there's different dimensions, I think, which they touched on when Buffy died and came back and was in heaven. And then there's different hell dimensions, and
they got a lot of mileage out of that in Angel.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that sort of flipped. Like I think introduced it in Buffy, but like Angel is really where that played out. So if you didn't watch Angel and you just saw Buffy, like I could see that being something you'd want to see more of. But yeah, you had to flip shows to explore that.
I think the one in Angel that I always felt just got left by the wayside was Gunn had a whole crew of vampire hunters that just got forgotten about at one point, right?
Yeah, I think it happened more in Angel, where they just had like plot lines that just sort of like
they kept interrupting one plot line with the next biggest thing. But that was part of the show too, is like Angel would go off to do something and Wesley and Gunn would be standing there going like, we got fucking work to do over here. Like, why are you going off and doing this? And that just kept happening. And it was an ongoing theme about his level of responsibility. It was done on purpose, but that very much was something that happened a lot. Like you had the smaller characters cleaning up a lot of messes, right?
Yeah. There was one, like in season 1, now that I'm thinking about it, like you sparked me. In season 1, and I don't know why it sparked my brain, but it did, of Buffy, they had so many cliffhangers at the end of episodes. Yeah. And the one where Amy's mom is a witch and she gets put into that trophy. Episode 3,
yeah, and the eyes
she gets
glow.
Put into the trophy and you see the eyes move. Like, I wanted to see what happened with that. Like, whatever happened to that statue? It was in the school when it blew up. Like, where is Amy's mom right now?
She's currently sitting in a pile of rubble underneath the high school. Like, yeah.
But they did that a few times in season 1, where they left you on like, this could be a thing, but they didn't.
That is the 90s trope that drove me up the fucking wall. Is in my head, it was do you remember the Goosebumps TV show? That was at the end of every single fucking episode of Goosebumps, where it would be like, the thing is resolved, and then the camera pans over to someone smiles evilly, and like,
Uh-huh.
oh, we killed the evil wizard, and then it turns over and like the actor that played the wizard is pretending to be the janitor in the corner now, and like
Yeah.
they just like, aha, we didn't actually defeat the thing, and they did it so fucking often in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And season 1 of Buffy was really guilty of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be the like every time I watch those back, I'm like, but I want to know what happened.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Is it me next? Are we in 16?
Yes.
Look at, we've gone through so many. 2 hours later.
Yeah, right. I feel like we spend so much time talking about like who's your favorite character. Now we're getting into the deep questions and we're like speed through it.
We gotta speed it up. All of the characters had a distinct flaw that they had to overcome. Do you build characters with flaws that can grow beyond the flaw?
Every time. And I encourage my players to do it at a table as well. Right.
Yeah.
Like you get a little part on your character sheet that's bonds, traits, and then the flaws is the last one. Lean into it. My last character that I played, it was only a couple of weeks ago, I played for 2-shot, was a Goliath barbarian, and he was Path of the Giant, super powerful, a lot of fun to play, scared of the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That was so much fun to play scared of the dark because we were going underground and we were like in catacombs fighting drow. There's no light sources in here. So I was always like, is there a torch? Are there torches around? And I was collecting fucking torches because I didn't want to be scared of the dark. And when all of the lights went out at one point, my character started screaming and thrashing just because he would, until I think Mega's character created a light source, and then I was okay again. So I absolutely do that. That's where the fun lands.
Yeah. I mean, and they give you a flaw in D&D that you can play with, and sometimes I go with it, sometimes I don't. I think I don't build them in with a flaw, but I think things happen that give them
you discover the flaws.
I do. Like I had my favorite character struggled with continually losing her friends. And not only losing her friends, but like finding out that a person she was very connected with and saw as like a father figure was actually the cause of her greatest trauma when they didn't know each other. And then they happened to meet up. And this was very organic in how it happened in the game, because in this world, we have multiple parties that play in the same world and multiple people, and we can switch around between groups. We're not in one group the whole time.
Yeah.
So our players just happen to like, I can play at this time and I can play at this time. Let's play together. And didn't know that about each other, that he caused my greatest trauma. So it was like it's learning to forgive friends and understand, and then losing him and just having to like there's a big character arc, but it just happened. It wasn't a plan. So I think my flaws and having to learn those things come more organically to my characters.
Getting a little bit lighter. What was your favorite joke on Buffy?
My favorite, there's so many good ones. You kind of said it earlier, like I was thinking when we were talking about Vampire Willow, I had the like, I think I might be gay. And I was like, that might be it. And then you said it. And like I said, I quote Fire Bad Tree Pretty all the time. It's hard to pick out. Again, I haven't watched it in a few years.
One of my favorite gags on it is during Hush when she's making the stabbing motion, but they can't speak, and everyone's like looking at her, and she got to go pick up the steak, and they're like, "Oh, that's what you meant." Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I gotta say, it was so much in the zeitgeist in exactly that moment, and it is not going to translate at all anymore. But in season 7, when they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and Trogdor the Burninator shows up, yes, I got that fucking reference, and it was so 2004, and only for like that month did people know what that was and give a shit.
Yeah.
But like, I happened to fucking get that. Like that was one that stood out to me.
Andrew being Tucker's brother, like nobody knew who Andrew was, and he's like, I'm Tucker's brother, but also my last name was Tucker at the time. So
oh yeah. I like the fact that
I have a shirt. Oh my god, I have a shirt that I have so many Buffy shirts. And it is it says like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like has the book and stuff. And then it says on the bottom, Andrew, Tucker's brother.
The reason that Andrew was a character at all is because they couldn't get the actor that played Tucker to come back. He was supposed to, and they couldn't get him. So like, all right, we're gonna just
have Tucker's brother,
his little brother. There were so many good jokes in Buffy. Yeah, I could sit here and go through the list in my head and just try to like work my way through the seasons. But I think that's
we don't have that kind of time. I have a hair appointment soon. What is the most tragic storyline in Buffy, in your opinion?
I mean, if it's not Joyce dying, it's Anya dying. If it's not Anya dying, or Tara dying. Like, if we take away the death, like it's her having to stab her true love through the heart and send him into a hell dimension as he gets his fucking soul back. That was heart-wrenching. Like, there was a lot, but there were also a lot of just like, first of all, every episode had people dying.
Yeah.
And there was never any resolution for any of them. Like how many bodies were just left in mausoleums and they like walked away? You know, those parents never found those kids, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We lost a lot of Slayers in season 7. Like, there were a lot of girls that were just neck snapped, move on. And like, you got to imagine that Buffy's house was absolutely just full of shallow graves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of tragedy in Buffy, but getting ripped out of heaven, I mean, that's got to be... Oh, I'll tell you what my favorite joke is. Spike waking up and realizing that he's British and that he got named Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah, that what's the most tragic? I like it's got to be being ripped out of heaven, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's her finally admitting that to Spike.
Although I also have to give a shout out to low key, one of the weirdest, awkwardest, and most upsetting. Do you have siblings?
I have a sister.
If you woke up one day and realized that she wasn't actually your sister and she's not even a thing, and like these are all false memories.
Yeah.
How fucking tragic is that? And like, especially for her. I think that could have been low key devastating. And they just kind of glanced off of it and kept moving on.
Yeah. And then she was just gone. And Dawn also had to realize, like, I'm not real. I have like these memories. And then the one person who she connected with the most was just gone. We
live in a world now of more complex storytelling. We've had things that are... It was very simplistic premises back in the 90s and early 2000s. And now we're able to dig into like The Expanse and Game of Thrones and a lot of the HBO shows and the AMC shows and stuff where they can do a lot more. If we were to get Buffy now on like a streaming service, I feel like Dawn's character wouldn't have been like, I'm a kleptomaniac and nobody listens to me and I'm sad, and would be far more, I'm having an existential crisis. My life is a lie. Why do I even have to listen to you? And like, does morality matter to me? Do I have to follow the same rules? Do I have a soul?
Yeah.
Right. And
that's interesting because they did play with the impact of a soul so much between Angel and Spike.
And Buffy getting ripped out of heaven. Like, we very much saw people's souls.
Yeah.
And we never really got anything about Dawn being a fraction of a character, right? Like,
and then Dawn thinking she was a potential Slayer and then realizing she wasn't and having to just hand that over.
Brutal. If anything, she should have been more superpowered than anybody else because she has a literal part of Buffy's essence, right? Like, there's a tragic storyline that I don't know if it's the most tragic, but it's definitely something to think about, right?
Yeah, I think it's something that was there that just they didn't, because she came in so late in the series, didn't have the time to really explore.
Yeah. How has Buffy impacted your own D&D games?
I actually ran last year for Halloween a session based on a Halloween episode of Buffy where they got locked in the frat house. I did that for my kids. Yeah, like.
Well, have your kids seen Buffy? Have you watched it with them?
They saw it when they were very young. I went through a binge. My son was like a toddler, and I remember he used to come up and do the vampire face. He'd go.
Cute.
But he does, I guarantee he does not remember any of it. But for like a brief time when he was a toddler, he used to like scrunch his face and go.
You think they'd care if you were to sit down and binge watch with them, or are they old enough now that it's problematic
Yeah.
because I
Well,
remember
my son's 14, so he is the age where it was sort of at the beginning marketed towards.
right, but it's also the 90s style, so it's going to be
Yeah.
quote unquote cringe.
Yeah,
right?
it's so funny going back and watching those 90s shows and thinking like if they had a cell phone,
Oh,
all of this
right.
would be solved in 2 seconds.
Why don't you guys just look it up on Wikipedia? Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I was Buffy's impacted my D&D games because I have literally put magical runes on my players to make them the chosen ones.
Yeah.
And every time that one of them dies, the rune ends up on someone else, on whatever the next character is, to be the next chosen one. Because I have to make them different than every other, hero walking or traveling the land, right? They have to be able to defeat monsters beyond their level and have it make sense in the storyline. So they've been touched by the gods, but it's very much a chosen one storyline.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking in the background.
I can't, but
Okay.
I will be honest, even if I could,
Mhm.
Casey's dog.
Yeah, Loki.
Loki has straight up been in the credits of some of the episodes that I've edited because we can't edit around her, and she's just like, Loki is roughly the size for everybody else. Loki is the size of the palm of my hand and always will be. She is the tiniest fucking dog and makes the most fucking noise and the happiest puppy in the whole world.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, my daughter's just leaving, so my dog's going crazy. All right, that's me. How do you feel about the show Angel, which we've somewhat answered, but
I love it. It is not the best show I've ever watched, but it sits solidly in my top 5 at any given point. It'll move up and down, but it sits solidly in my top 5 shows of all time for not just a comfort rewatch, but I will go pilfer storylines and subplots and character like NPCs out of Angel. It's a little bit more mature and it's a little bit more D&D.
Yeah. I find that most of the females I know that like these shows like Buffy, and most of the males that I know prefer the Angel series.
Angel's definitely more masculine and it doesn't get caught up in too much of the romance. There's soap opera for sure, but
I think it's out of high school. It's more of an adult out of high school.
And it deals with a lot of themes of fatherhood, right? And that's a big factor that I was not fucking expecting. Also, the fact that they've got just like a rotating cast of people that are going to get fucking killed off at any given point is amazing.
Yeah. I just watched an episode of Angel the other day.
Which one?
It was season 1. It was like half of one episode and then half of another one. I was at a friend's house, so it was just like on in the background. It was season 1. It was the guy who's like was obsessed with a woman, and like his hand like came up through her sheets or whatever.
All of his body parts
it
would fall off and become autonomous, and that was creepy.
And then the next one I think was when Cordelia got into her apartment and like there was the ghost in it and like the creepy face that came through the wall.
Ghost Dennis.
Yeah.
I fucking love Angel. There's so much good shit. Although I was not expecting them to kill Doyle like that. And then to have that, like, the actor died in real life like less than a year later was just tragic. But crazy. So those are the 20 questions. I mean, okay, sorry. How did you feel ultimately about Angel? Yeah.
Like I said, I definitely prefer Buffy. And that I've watched, like, I can just sit down and binge the fuck out of Buffy, start to finish. I find it difficult to watch a couple of the seasons of Angel. But then I get to season 5 and like that's probably one of my favorite seasons of any show ever. I don't know why. It's just I think the feel of that show changes so much between season 4 and season 5. And it
Oh,
is almost an
it's a
entirely, yeah, it's a
brand new
new
show.
show. Yeah.
But it's a new show between season 1 and season 2 as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Wesley shows up halfway through season 1 and Gunn shows up near the end of season 1, like episode 17 or 18 or something. But like season 2 through season 4 is one big arc.
Yeah.
And like, sure, we have a little tangent off to go meet Fred. And like there are other little things, but it is one big arc. So I can get that. I love that arc because it doesn't let up, but it also ends on such a wet fart as well, which is that Cordelia gives birth to a goddess, and it's a great idea in theory, but it just didn't work out the way that the execution wasn't great. So
I believe that like at that time it was because Firefly like fell apart and he was just finding spots for those characters.
that was a part of it, but it was also just the fact that like they were getting canceled off of their, like they were canceled at the end of season 4, and everyone Joss knew it and was bitter, but I don't think anybody else knew it, right?
Yeah.
And they had like that was a last minute. Season 5 was a last minute Hail Mary. We're gonna bring you back, and you have to earn your fucking ratings again. But no, there was a lot of shit going on in the background. Charisma Carpenter versus Joss was a big factor there as well, and Vincent Kartheiser, who played Connor, was not happy. He wanted to move on to movies and stuff. He was in a number of movies when he was a teenager, then landed Angel, and it stuck him in the angst role for for I guess a year and a half. He wanted to move on. Like there was a lot of shit. So
I was not a Connor fan.
Me neither.
Like,
I
was just not a Connor fan at all.
Total fucking addition here because we're talking about Angel. How great is fucking Lorne?
Oh, love Lorne. I just had a conversation about Lorne too and how great he is.
I again at the very last thing. So I downloaded Once More with Feeling, and I have since I have it on one of my external drives. I've since added Lorne's version of "It's Not Easy Being Green."
Yeah,
so good, so good.
Which I remember an interview with Joss Whedon and James Marsters that like they like Joss Whedon said at the beginning he would never do a musical episode. And then like they went on break and he just like fucking wrote that. And like and James Mercer's I believe helped with like the music in it because he is in a band and like
there was
musical person. Like
there was low key real musical talent on those shows, right?
Yeah.
Because
I love that Willow only ever sings like one line in that episode. Like that whole episode. And it's like, I think this line is filler. Like that's all you get.
Perfect.
Everybody else sings these like full-on songs.
And Giles is low-key so fucking talented as well.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the 20 questions here from digglybluemoonya. There's 2 more from Alexander AnotherSkip Davis. So what 3 things would you pull from Sunnydale to put into a beginning adventure area?
Love the Hellmouth, just as an idea. Like you don't know why this town is like that. That would be honestly that would be a great. I might put that in something.
That's straight up the plot for the Yawning Portal too, right?
Yeah.
Like in Waterdeep.
Yeah, but like the Yawning Portal, like it's known. Like they built a whole fucking bar around it.
Yeah, and there's
like,
literally this is the gate. The monsters come through here, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, like having your characters have to figure that out, and there being that seal that can open and getting to see like down into it and all the Uber vamps down there working, like I think that would be a good.
I think the other thing that they've actually mentioned a couple of times in Buffy is there is just an inordinate amount of cemeteries in Sunnydale. There are so many graveyards in Sunnydale. I think that having a beginning adventure area, just like, oh, here's the village. It's got a population of, 350 people. There are 17 cemeteries littered throughout the surrounding lands, though.
Yeah.
Well, should have your players go, what the fuck? Where are we? I think that's a good pull from Sunnydale as well.
I don't know. I think also just like the people in it, like they all know something is weird.
Yeah.
But they all just go about their fucking lives. Like, so it's if you were to be in this town as players and like talking to people and they're just like going to school and like doing their thing, and then you just see something like a mural or something to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, that was so and so and they died last week, have a good day. Like,
Yeah,
they go, like
that's one of the things I don't think you get away with in storytelling these days. Like
uh-huh.
audiences expect you to treat them smarter. Like your background characters, your extras, your NPCs, whatever, can't just be that dumb anymore. And it's not dumb, it's just like willful ignorance.
Yeah, it's just, this is our life, this is what this, like, we don't know any better, this is our life, this is what we live in, this is just our day-to-day. A lot of people die here,
but that's reality too. There's a fucking town in Texas where like people go fucking mad over time, like dementia's 4 times the national average, and there's literally shit in the water, right? Like, and they're like, yeah, but we've always lived here. It's all those people in Florida who have their houses knocked down every 3rd hurricane, and like, why don't you fucking move? Well, this is our house, we're here, like this is just what we deal with. People just do that, right? Like, well, it's part of life, right?
Yeah. I like the monster of the week feel too. Like,
I just played an entire session of Monster of the Week, or an entire level rather of Monster of the Week, where every session they had the opportunity to go deal with one thing that has nothing to do with the plot line. Just go out and train up, because you're supposed to be the, like, we know that you are going to go to war eventually. We got to get you trained up to be as powerful as the rest of our heroes in town, because you guys are in the level 5. They're like, okay, we can do that. So, and I would tell them, what monster of the week do you want to go after, and give them 3 or 4 options, and they would choose one and they go do it. We did that for 5 sessions in a row. So much fun. Get to use monsters you don't normally use. You get to have little plot lines that don't matter. They don't have to get spun into the storyline anywhere. There's no, it'll all matter later. No, you guys are just having fun and playing D&D.
Yeah.
And we hit level 6 and I ripped them away from it. And now they're very much in the plot line and whatnot. But I'm trying to find a way to hit Monster of the Week again for a little while, just to feel that a little bit more without it being the overarching plot.
Yeah, I think that's something that this show did very well, and that there was, like, each season had its overarching plot, but there are just fun episodes that is just like this Monster of the Week. I like, it gave you a good mix of both, and I think that's a very hard thing to do. Like for instance, in season 1 with Amy's mom being a witch had nothing to do with the master, but it's still like such a memorable episode. Like, it's a good episode, and gave a lot of fun to it.
Abandoned it for the most part by season 6 and 7. Like, those are just pure storyline, but the first 5 seasons definitely have the one of. The one that's weird to me now is the Thanksgiving episode. That's probably one of my least favorite episodes, except for Spike on the fucking couch through the whole thing. But like, where the spirits of the Native Americans come back and attack Thanksgiving dinner. Like, Jesus, guys, you could learn some subtlety. Fuck.
But it was the 90s. Like, that's what... Like, there's so much shit that they couldn't have gotten away with nowadays, I think.
Yeah, the other thing about that episode that I'll give them is that was right when they were figuring out, how do we transition this group of people that were in school together into hanging out and being a family after high school, right? And so, but I mean, even Angel came back for that one, and then he fucking left without saying anything to Buffy, and like, she was pissed. That was great. She showed up on Angel the next week being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So good.
It was also very like, as like, so like going into my adulthood, we had those like Friendsgivings that were like a fucking disaster. I mean, we didn't have spirits shooting at us, but like the first Friendsgiving I ever had was such a disaster. Like, I think the turkey got cooked upside down. Nobody knew how to tell if it was actually cooked. We were all calling our moms.
That's funny.
We had not a big enough pan to make mashed potatoes, so we had 3 pans of potatoes, like pots of potatoes boiling on the stove at one time. We did not have anything to mash them with, so we're like mashing them with forks. Nobody
Amazing.
said what they were bringing, so it was all potatoes or pasta or like some kind of carb. There was no vegetables to be seen anywhere. And it was that kind of a memorable disaster that just like sets the tone for like it had to happen. Like that's your growth, you know? And I think that was very much like them trying to have a Thanksgiving.
I've got a bunch of friends that are out here in Vancouver without their family,
Mhm.
right? And we've got a couple of friends who've lost both parents and whatnot at this point. And so we've been doing Friendsmas or Friendsgiving for a while now, but
Mhm.
I feel like we could beef that up to be even more. I've never hosted it. I've always just brought one thing, and I'm like, my place could handle 12 people. We can
Yeah.
everybody who the only people that are invited are the people that don't have the ability to go home, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend that for people. Like that's
Yeah, Friendsgiving is amazing.
yeah.
I've become the designated turkey carver because I'm the only one that I was the only one that like hunted at that point. Like I know my way around a carcass, as weird
That's
as that
Dave.
sounds. Like, yeah. And they're like, who knows how to carve a turkey? I'm like, well, I can cut a deer up, so give me the knife.
I've got a couple of look, it is a matter of pride with men for some
Uh-huh.
reason about how to like carve a turkey or
Yeah.
cut meat or barbecue meat. I am a 80% vegetarian. I do not give a shit about meat at all.
Mhm.
I can go I actually have to remind myself sometimes, you haven't had meat in 5 or 6 days, you need protein in your life.
Yeah.
Dig into it.
I'm the opposite. I have to remind myself to eat a vegetable every once in a while.
I don't know
That's
what it
not a
is.
potato.
I love vegetables, and of course I love carbs, but who doesn't? But
Yeah.
like it's I'm not one of those guys. So I sit back and I watch. Dave is a de facto like here carve a turkey, grill a steak guy, but there are
Mhm.
definitely a couple of other guys on the podcast too that are very much going to wait for Dave to turn his back so that they can take over and be men about it. And it's
Yeah.
always fucking hilarious to watch. I don't have a whole lot of toxic masculinity in my life anymore, but that is probably the most comedic sitcom version of it that I
Yeah.
see. All the men posturing around a barbecue or around, well, if you hold your knife like this while you're carving a turkey, and of course one of Dave's very good friends who he goes hunting with is a butcher. So
Yeah.
like Dave has learned how to do this over the last 10 years and he's no slouch and he's still got fucking people in his ear about it. Always good to watch. Always fun. I'm getting drunk on the couch watching. So
My dad goes at it with like an electric knife. Like he doesn't fuck around. He's got
yeah, my
like a
dad did
case
that for
with an
years.
electric knife. Yeah, and just but we'll have like 3 turkeys and a ham. Like you don't have time to fuck around with like carving every one of them. Like so yeah, he just buzzes through it.
You want to hit up the last question?
Yeah. We somehow got into carving turkeys.
We have done a couple of laps of this fucking list, let me tell you.
All right, Sunnydale has a dungeon below the city, similar to Waterdeep.
Right.
What keeps the monsters in check in a D&D style universe?
Man, we should really read these questions ahead of time. What keeps the monsters in check? Honestly, it's going to be things like magical barriers. Sunlight sensitivity keeps a
Yeah.
lot of monsters in check from the Underdark, right? From coming
Mhm.
up into the world. It's something that we're actually talking about a little bit on the campaign builder right now. Is the Drow are going to war? This war has to take place at night because they're Drow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So, what keeps the monsters in check? Also, the fact that, like, from a monster's perspective, you live your happy hermit life, doing your own thing, getting your own food, having your own home, and protecting your own territory. Every once in a while, you breed and you make more of them, and you kick them out to find their own lairs. But like, there's an existential threat directly over your head, and that is humanity, right? And like the intelligent races that every once in a while will come down here just to murder you and take your shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. From the monsters' point of view, like they're they come down here and invade. We're just doing our thing.
It's like an alien invasion, right?
Uh-huh.
Every once in a while, they will send down a single ship worth of
Uh-huh.
people to come down and just wreck house and see, hey, you know what? Have we exterminated enough of the creatures down here? And it's fucking dark when you stop and think about it like that. No
Yeah.
wonder the monsters are so fucking angry. I
Yeah.
would say that the monsters don't need to be held in check. demon lords need to be held in check, evil armies need to be held in check, but beholders or the little like cave dwelling insects and shit, they don't want to go up where the heroes, the noise and the light and the chaos and the destruction comes from.
I think they'd also like, I mean, they know like if it's just them, if it's just one, you know, like they know they're not going to make it. So they would have to like band together. And there's so much like battling and like killing each other off. Like there would have to be something to band them all together to come up as one, like all at once.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that they don't care enough to.
Yeah, also every monster ends up with a flaw of some sort. Beholders are powerful, but they're paranoid and can't work together. Kuatoa can create gods, but they're insane, and sometimes the gods are silly, right? Like there's a built-in story reason why this isn't a problem yet. The only ones that I can't find, like even the devils and demons are fighting each other, and that's what keeps the balance in the cosmos together. It's, you got to start looking for the slotty and hags and shit to find the real scary, the Nagpa, and like these are the real issues that are out there. Mind flayers, that's an issue, right? I'm not so much worried about trolls and giants. There's not enough of them, and they're not the more evil they get, the dumber they get, right? So I'm not concerned. Yes, this is a crisis for a village. It's not a crisis for the kingdom. We'll just send out enough people to fucking slay them. This is why we have adventurers. Be like, hey, you mercenaries, go out and do this. We'll pay you, right? And so there are some existential threats, but they tend to be, like I say, the slotty or the Neogi or mind flayers or shit that's coming from the far realms but en masse, or out from the cosmos but en masse. If the Yugoloths ever organized, like the material plane's fucked, right? And there's that.
I think unionization is the thing that's stopping them. They don't have a union.
That's exactly what it is. They need,
that's holding them at bay, is that they don't have a union.
or they need one charismatic leader to bring them all together to go in one direction. And so all of our monsters that do that are going to invade are the mob monsters, right? That's going to be your gnolls and your orcs and your goblins and stuff. But even them, they operate spurned on by a god or a demon lord in the case of the gnolls. Like, kobolds aren't going to war, not unless a dragon tells them to, and even then you're not getting tens of thousands of kobolds. You're getting 80, right? Like 300 maybe, but you enough to walk through with a battle axe. So I don't feel the need to keep the monsters in check as long as the armies never rise. Slod, the army will rise quickly. Gnolls, the army will rise quickly. Mind flayers, the army will rise quickly. So the moment they can convert the races into more monsters, that's an issue. But other than that, nah. I mean, Drow and Durgar and even orcs, they enslave goblins. They enslave, that's a problem. They are an issue for a kingdom, but they can be defeated on a battlefield, and it's not going to be the end of everyone's lives. So I don't know. That's why
I think any of them that are smart enough to be able to like have that thought of I could do this, also know I could be killed by this. Is it even worth it? Like,
have you noticed that every super highly intelligent creature in Dungeons and Dragons is a hermit? Whether it's the Mad Mage in Undermountain, or dragons that are like, hey, these are my layers over here, fuck off. Or like Asmodeus, who nobody has seen for eons, but we can still feel his presence. All the high level devils are like, they don't want the material plane to come fuck with them, right? Everyone's like, hey, we're smart enough to know that the elves and the humans and the Goliaths and everybody, they're a fucking problem for us. Right? We want them, we want their souls, we want to get them, we want whatever. But the afterlife will bring them to us anyway. We can focus on our own shit. So any final thoughts before we wrap up on Buffy and Angel?
I just love these shows so much. I think like I've binged a lot of shows. I have a lot of fandoms. If you look around my house, you will see I have a Doctor Who thing right there. There is a Ghostbusters thing right there. Like, I have so many different fandoms. Yeah, but this is the one I will just watch. This is the most memorable, most impactful, I think, fandom of my, like, I've not rewatched Doctor Who 8 times. I've
Yeah.
not, like, I've watched Firefly a few times, but I will start it and then not go back to it. I'll get distracted or whatever. I will stay up till 4 a.m. watching Buffy, even though I know, and I will be like, okay, one more episode, and they're like, oh, but the next one's so good too, I have to watch that. Like,
Yep.
it is hard for me to walk away from. I could walk away from any other. It's hard. Like, I can't just stop.
I feel that in my soul. Like, yeah, I get you. Buffy, so Buffy's your number one fandom?
Yeah.
The Buffy universe definitely sits in my top 5, probably sits in my top 3 fandoms. As well, I was so excited to talk about it because it hasn't been relevant in my life for the last decade, almost decade and a half now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dated. Some of it is very 90s. The fact that they don't wander around with cell phones is a big indicator, right? So, but it is definitely something that is very close and it's near and dear to my heart. And I cannot watch just one. You said that you jump in for one episode here or there. Even if I'm like, you know what, I'm going to watch this episode in season 3, or like, I'm going to watch the episode where Faith does this thing. No matter where I started, I'm watching to the end of Angel, right? Like, no matter where I start. So
yeah. And I think, like, we've kind of mentioned it a couple of times, it was so ahead of its time on so many issues. Like, even just the Willow, I think I might be gay. Like, this is the first.
It was one of the first. It was tough. It's so interesting how much it parallels Star Trek Deep Space Nine with some of the boundaries that were broken, because they were the first 2 episodes that I think had a lesbian kiss in it on regular network television. Yeah.
Like, I think Willow being gay was probably my first introduction into that.
Yeah.
And it was just the way, and even just, like we said, with Jonathan and the gun tower, and Warren with his anger, and Tara just being shot for no reason, and just like,
and Joyce dying from something that is out of your control. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Like, it was a fun supernatural monsters of the week, but there was so much more deepness to it, and things that they were going through that are relatable.
Yeah.
It wasn't just vampires.
I said it at the beginning, the show grows up with you in a lot of ways, to the point where, like, Buffy has to find a job to be able to pay bills and stuff. And like, man, fuck, have I felt that? I've never flipped a burger in my life, but it has been close a couple of times where I'm like, I need to step outside of my field and update my resume to just be like, I am willing to work an overnight bitch shift, at a drive-through window.
Literally going through that right now. Like, I just went through that, where like my entire life changed, and I have to figure out how to be on my own and support myself and find a new job, and what am I good at, because I've only ever done one thing for 20 years. What am I good at? How am I paying these bills? Like, on my own. Like, I am literally living that timeline right now.
It's a whole fucking crazy mess. And the fact that, like, I am a 40-year-old man and I can still turn to Buffy and Angel and get shit out of it after multiple rewatches, right? And not just be entertained. Like, there's some shows you can go back and just watch, but to like feel comforted by, or to learn a lesson from, or to like, I will still watch stuff and be like, oh, okay, I see it from a new perspective now. I get it. I very much watch Buffy from the Giles perspective at this point.
Yeah. And I think at this point in my life, like I said earlier, the last time I watched it, I identified more with Joyce. And I think even more so right now, being a newly single mom. Like, that is me Joyce is me at the beginning of Buffy. I have a teenager in high school. I am a newly single mom. I am trying to figure life out. And it just changes with you the older you get. Like, when you're younger, you identify with maybe Buffy or Dawn or Willow, or and as you grow, you move into the Wesley, the Giles, the Joyce.
And I guess I want to finish this episode off by saying, Peps, don't date a robot.
try not to. How do I
Okay.
check? How do I check?
Look for the light switch between the shoulder blades. That's
Okay.
yeah.
Definitely inspect their house for plugs.
I have nothing appropriate to say, so we're gonna wrap this episode up. It's only gonna go real rated R really quickly. So this has been another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast. Thanks so much for listening. You can send us your mailbag questions on the subreddit r/It's a Mimic, or directly to us through our website at www.itsamimic.com, or through either Instagram or Facebook. You can DM us directly or make posts and tag us in them. We tend to do this every handful of months, and we love doing it. If you've got a show you'd love us to talk about, and if we can find two people to argue or celebrate, then please send us a message, and we would be happy to do more shows like this. These ones are so much fun, and they're like D&D adjacent, but it makes us very happy. These are easy to do. So,
but also, like, as D&D, we all take from our favorite pop culture into
absolutely.
our D&D games. Like, we all do. So it ties in so well at times too, you know.
It absolutely does. As a matter of fact, every time that I find myself burning out on D&D, I have to swap to a new kind of media. Maybe I'm stuck in Breaking Bad or Dexter or something, and I'm like, I'm not getting D&D out of this. I need to go do X-Files, Gravity Falls, something with a monster of the week, but an overarching storyline as well, right? Which is my bread and butter at this point. That's where I want to be. Do you have a die? I assume you do.
I have dice all over the place, all over my desk. So which one? Which one do we want to use? The one with the dragon in it? The one that has spikes on it? Probably spikes, right?
Oh, shit, there you go.
It's a very pointy dice.
Oh, holy shit. Yes, it is. I complained like a year ago. No, it was like mid-pandemic maybe, or just after the pandemic. Anyway, I complained about not having a brown die, and then Tyler had brown dice and he dropped them off at my house.
Yeah.
I was in a recording when he dropped them off, and Mieko like grabbed them from the front door, and like the two of them like snuck them into my house, and then like put it on my computer when I wasn't looking, and like this whole great big thing. So I've been using the brown die, and it is by far the most consistent die I have ever had.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid to take it away from the online recordings, because I know if I put it on a D&D table, it's just gonna roll ones like every other fucking die that I have. So
it'll taint it.
Buffy. Okay. So let me do the damn intro.